Hello. So you are at, in case you get confused, the session that says, stop that. And it's Susan Parenti, you're at the Friday Forum, and now we're going to do something odd. Beth.
Hi, I'm not Susan Parenti. I'm Elizabeth Simpson, and I am part of the We Want to Woke Community Justice Choir. I don't need to lean. And one of the ways that we, people in the community, accepted the invitation that Susan is going to talk about today is by making a point to sing before we gather. Singing is, century-old technique. It's a technology for community organizing, and so now you're invited to do that today. So people who feel like standing, you can stand. People who are like, I don't like standing, you could still stand or you could sit. And I'm going to teach you line by line the song, and then we'll sing it together. The song comes from the Peace Poets, which is a group out of New York, and it's been adapted through many different movements. This set of lyrics is adapted to address concerns and impacts and limiting the impacts of catastrophic climate change. The words are, people gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. We hear the voices of our great-granddaughters saying, keep coal in the ground. So now I'll sing part of it and you sing it back to me.
But people should stand. Yes, please.
Yay! Oh, I will be. Oh, don't worry. Here we go. Okay, my turn. People gonna rise like the water. People gonna rise like the water. Gonna face this crisis now. Gonna face this crisis now. We hear the voices of our great-granddaughters. Hear the voices of our great-granddaughters saying, keep coal in the ground. Saying, keep coal in the ground. Now we're going to do it all together, and if you don't know what you're doing, it's a metaphor. There's people around you who might have a clue, and working together, we work it out. It's a round. So as you feel, those are the 4 parts. So as I love the head nodding. Someone's like, yes, we're gonna do it. That's what we're gonna do. Okay, here we go. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. We hear the voices of our great-granddaughters saying, keep coal in the ground. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. We hear the voices of our great-granddaughters saying, keep coal in the ground. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. We hear the voices of our great-granddaughters saying, keep coal in the ground. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. We hear the voices of our great-granddaughters saying, keep coal in the ground, keep going. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. We hear the voices of our great-granddaughters saying, keep cool in the ground. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. We hear the voices saying, keep cool in the ground. Join me on, keep cool in the ground. Keep coal in the ground. Keep coal in the ground. Keep coal in the ground.
I would like to offer you a tool that has helped me. The tool is a term. The term is a legitimate question. A legitimate question. I like to think sideways, which is a way of understanding something by distinguishing it. So I think, what would I distinguish from when I'm using the term legitimate question? Simple. An illegitimate question. An illegitimate question is when the questioner is asking something that she doesn't have an answer for. So it's a question you ask when you don't have the answer. An illegitimate question, on the other hand, is a question you ask when you already do have the answer. So you could ask yourself, why would someone ask a question when they already have the answer? Well, we have all been to school, and that's to test whether you have the right answer. Most education is built on illegitimate questions. Somebody is asking something, they already have the answer, they want to know if you have the answer. I think that's got to stop. On October 12th, 2018, the United Nations Council on Global Climate Change made the following statement. They said, "We have 12 years in which to limit the damage of catastrophic climate change." Underneath that statement is a legitimate question. How are we going to limit the damage of catastrophic climate? Who is going to be limited? When is this going to happen? Another aside about education, Hampshire College, which like a lot of progressive colleges in this country, has been having a very hard time, and they have decided this year to abolish departments and just base classes on questions, on legitimate questions. So there's no longer an English department or a history department. There are a series of questions that people think are important to answer. But let's go back to that October 12th, 2018 announcement. I heard it, and I felt addressed by the question, by the legitimacy of the question. And so my response was, and it's safely in the past, it's in January 2019, my response was this: I am going to stop everything I'm doing, and I'm going to devote my life to focusing on how to answer the question, how do we limit the damage of catastrophic climate change? Right. And I promised a gentleman I would not make my voice go down at the end. Let me say that sentence again. Okay. All right. So I decided to address that announcement by the United Nations. My voice is going up, you hear? And I decided that I was going to stop everything I'm doing in order to focus on how to limit the damage of catastrophic climate change. Hear my voice is still going up? Okay, good. And the rub is, I want you to do that too. I want you to stop everything you're doing and focus on how we can limit the damage of catastrophic climate change. Climate change. So, that desire I turned into a project. And the word project should really be project. A project is something in the future that doesn't happen yet. So I decided to turn it into a project. And I'm going to hand out, away from the microphone, I'm going to hand out the original version of this poster. If you want to save paper, you can give it to me later. But I do want you to look at it. Look at it. This poster was made by Mark Henslin and Coke Company. No, I didn't. Okay. We decided to call the project Rewriting Cassandra. Cassandra is this mythical figure who Zeus loved and enabled her to see into the future and to be able to tell people from the future what was going to be happening in the present. Since she didn't go to bed with him, he then punished her by making sure that everyone who listened to her did not believe a word she said. So I thought it was time that we rewrote Cassandra and looked for people who are Cassandras. You can read it yourself. Do I trust you to read it yourself? Nah, okay. So this is what first happened as I thought about ways to respond to that October 12th announcement. And I thought that people would want to know the following, and I'm guessing that you too would like to know the following. Okay, so you're going to get a group of people together, but how many people would be in this Rewriting Cassandra group? Well, I decided 20 people makes a nice group of playmates, and 20 people also could mean that we would have 10 people from in-town existence and then 10 people from out of state, out of country. And I'm giving you details because I am trying to construct an audacious, life-changing project, and it's in the details that this happened. So we wanted 20 people. Why would we do this as a group? Why don't we just ask people to stay home, ponder about ways to limit the damage of climate change? If you've heard of this Russian psychologist, his name is Vygotsky. He was in the 1930s, and he coined this wonderful term that should be just like something you say before breakfast. And I have to remember it too, he coined the term the proximal zones of development. Vygotsky, 1930s. And what he meant by that, to the degree I understand it, is that when you are in the proximity of people, the dynamics of that group relationship can make magical things happen. So the proximity of people. If you've heard of the term folie à deux, that means madness in two, and you can look at your friends, you might have this, that means by yourself you come up with crazy ideas, but by yourself you don't do them. And then you meet some wild character that you are drawn to. And you say to this character, you know, I've always wanted to do, but I've never done it. And this character, the folie à deux, goes, let's do that. And then you find yourself doing things where you think, oh my God, I can't believe we did this. That's folie à deux, and that's the proximal zone of development. So I figured if we were going to be addressing this question of how to limit the damage of climate change, that we would need a lot of folie à deux behavior. Okay, that's why I group. So how long would this focus be? 90 days. I thought that was a substantial amount. If people are coming from out of town, out of country, and there were about 5 people, that would be 3 months in Champaign-Urbana, 90 days. It would be substantial. However, it was really important that we had people that were going to leave, because there's something that happens sort of clogged, like a clogged drain, when we're in town forever and we think, all right, I'd like to talk to Nan, but that can wait to Christmas. But when you have people here for only 90 days, we had to do things quickly. When we had government officials who would tell us things like, it's going to take 4 or 5 months, girls, for this to be figured out, we go, no, we don't have 4 or 5 months. Okay. So we wanted to meet for 90 days, 20 people, 2 to 8 hours a day. It's meant to be a vigil around asking ourselves, how do we limit the damage? So 2 to 8 hours a day. And we wanted people to be there in the flesh. I wanted to see people's kneecaps, not to substitute your presence with digital, no texting. In talking to people about this project and about climate change, I heard again and again, I feel so isolated from people. Isolated. That came up over and over, that people were feeling isolated. So I thought, and this worked out really, really well when we did the project, that people needed to be with each other. And they didn't need to email them because you'd be seeing that person in 2 to 8 hours. It would be simply the glory of the presence of other people. What did this project cost? Nothing. We didn't pay people to come, and they didn't pay us to be there. We did not want monetizing to mess up the bare-bones structure of this invitation, which is an invitation for soul and an invitation for conscience, really. So people only had to pay their way here. A lot of people came from, as I said, other places. And they just needed a little bit of money for food. We told people that we were going to eat communally. That's one of the cheapest ways to eat, best ways to eat. Further, the people that were from out of town, out of state, we made a commitment that we were going to find them housing. The Unitarian Universalist Church stepped up. We had 7 or 8 offers of housing, and so we were able to house people for free. And I thought that was so important, because if someone's taking 3 months out of their lives to be here, the community should thank them by giving them free housing. Say, thank you. Okay. And another question, will there be leaders and teachers in this project? Will I be getting a syllabus or the schedule of films? No. There weren't going to be any leaders or teachers. There was not going to be a syllabus. There wouldn't be a list of movies. I would tell people, once you get here, we'll figure out what we do. Once you get here, we will figure out what we do. That meant a lot of me curtailing my bossiness with people, telling people what to do. I wasn't going to tell people what to do, I was going to listen. And it also created a sense of chaos, so that when people arrived here, someone said to me, well, what are we doing today? And I said, I have no idea. I've been a teacher, but in alternative places for quite a long time. And I also remember when I went to college here, when tuition was cheap and you could drop out easily because it was only cost like $200 a semester. But week 1, you'd have chapter 1. And then before I was ready, week 2 would be chapter 2. And it was at that time period I would drop out of school because I was not ready for chapter 2. But somehow the educators decided you were ready for chapter 2. The audacity, the arrogance of anyone deciding the whenness of another person, that this is what we're now studying, forget that, move on, made me allergic all the time to hierarchical structures that are not flat, but where people go along with somebody. I think it took people a while in this project when we did it to realize no one was the boss. Someone would say something, and then everybody would look around going, well, when is the chief teacher going to tell us what to do? And we didn't have that structure. And I thought it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Okay, all right. Okay, so who wants to join this project? Okay, I put some plans. All right, but you're safe. I'm talking about a project that actually happened September through December of 2019. However, theater. You don't want to come up via chicken?
Not yet. Just see you before them.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, yes, all right, thank you. Okay, all right.
I'm stopping everything and I'm doing to focus on climate change, and I want you to do that too. Bull crap.
Blackout. Scene 2. I'm going to stop everything I'm doing and devote my life to preventing global warming. And I want you to do that too.
What? You want me to do what?
Well, stop everything you're doing and devote your life to preventing global warming.
Stop everything I'm doing? By any chance, are you referring to my egg production?
For example,
my egg production?
Yeah.
Stop my egg production?
Yeah.
No. I base my identity on it. Identity politics, where are you when I need you? I can't stop my egg production. That's me.
Oh, yes, you can stop that. Don't lay eggs. Stop that. Instead, for example, plant trees to preserve the habitat of the northern flying squirrels so they don't go astray. Plant trees.
Plant trees to preserve the blah, blah, blah? Instead of laying eggs? Absolutely not. Oh, that looks like a chicken. She's planting trees to preserve the blah, blah, blah. No one will recognize me. Plant trees to preserve the blah, 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 to substitute for egg. For number one, plant trees, blah, blah, blah. There's too many syllables.
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
I'm not ridiculous. Number two, it's chicken and egg. Chicken and egg. Say the word egg, people immediately flash chicken. Say the word chicken, people flash egg. Automatic. It took me centuries to establish that neural network. People are hardwired for that. And now, you want to mess that up?
I want you to stop everything you're doing and work on preventing Where are you going?
To cross the road. To get away from other chickens who tell them to stop laying eggs and instead plant squirrels.
You chicken! Blackout. Scene 3. I'm stopping everything in order to work all day, every day, to prevent global warming. I'm asking you to do that, too. Stop everything. Change track, change goal, change style, change intention, change your clothes, change your daily schedule, change daily income making, change how you live, where you live, what you live on, what you live for. Take out your savings, cash in your stocks, dismantle your car, get out your bike, work full-time on preventing global warming.
Oh, wait. I'm raising 3 kids. How am I supposed to just stop that? I'm a nurse. Am I supposed to stop taking care of my patients? Just abandon them? I help find homes for refugees in this country. I consider that equally important too.
Stop that! Left. Think Parkinson. Okay. Oops. There. Sorry. From January 2019 to August 2019, I talked with over 281 people, either by Skype or Vimeo or WhatsApp or Zoomio or I also just did phone calls. I took people, I see several of you, I took out for coffee, never paid me back. Okay, trying to talk to people about getting them involved in this project. You've probably heard that expression, follow the money. If you haven't, it was a 1976 docudrama called All the President's Men, and this character that you'd always see him in the garage, dark garage, who was called Deep Throat, would always tell the main reporters, follow the money. In my case, I was not following the money. I was following the language, how people speak when I talk to them about this project. So, and I want to give you some firsthand, because there's things you can hear on who we are in relation to this proposal of global warming. So, here's my notes. I took notes. February 12th, 2019, Caleb Weinbrunner, some of us know him. He was at home, and I was at home, and we spoke. It was on the phone. Okay. So Caleb, I said, are you able to not use your car very much? And he said, no. He said, we're in Phoenix. You have to understand, in the summer, the pavement is so hot, we can't take walks. You have to actually take your car somewhere. You can't walk. It's not safe to walk. I said, oh my God. I said, so you're both using a lot of fossil fuel and you're not getting exercise? And he said, yeah, it's not a good situation. And then he said, important words, can I tell you something? And I said, okay. He said, so the pavement's red hot. He says, what does that do to strays, Susan? I said, like stray what? He said, stray animals. They don't have shoes on, Susan. I said, so what are you telling me? He said, the animals, the cats and dogs in our town, their feet are burnt, and you can hear them howling. Okay. All right, Skype call with Kelly Jones in Edmonton, Canada, April 10th. So Kelly was telling me that she was a social worker that had retrained as a firefighter, and that there was nonstop fires in that area, which I hadn't known. And she was telling me about ways that they got the people out, but not a lot of times getting the animals out. And then she said, that important words, can I tell you something? And by then I thought, no, please, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to. I have to sleep at night. But I said, okay. I thought that's the least I can do. She said, I'm not supposed to tell people, but 3 weeks ago we were in the middle of a rural area getting people out of their houses and transporting them to where the fire wasn't. And she said, we didn't hear from a rural hospital that was about 4 hours away from us, so we assumed they were okay. But we found out later that they had lost power, so they couldn't even contact us, and they couldn't control the temperatures in their hospital. And so the premature babies died of the heat. Now that made me rethink what the invitation was. We were asking 20 people to show up for 90 days consecutive, to see each other for 2 to 8 hours a day. And climate change is not a basket of kittens. There were more horrible, as if you've ever had little kids where they tell you, I want to tell you that somebody ran over my dog and everything was squished out of him. Where we have to tell, this has been happening to me in the last year, people say to each other, did you hear that Antarctica is 66? Did you hear that 1 billion animals were killed in the firebush in Australia? As if we're children, we don't know who to tell this information to or how to react. So I thought to myself, if we're going to be working for 90 days, seeing each other for 2 to 8 hours, everyone's going to go home by week 2. It's going to be me too. People are going to be coming to my house, and I was going to put a big sign up, gone fishing, I don't want to see you guys anymore. So I thought I needed to redo the project. We put in there, and you see it in your poster, no doom and gloom, no doom and gloom. And then I started making more legitimate questions. How can we talk about discouraging things in an encouraging way? How can we talk about discouraging things in an encouraging way? Is that possible? We don't like catastrophic climate change, but can we like our thinking about it? Most people like their thinking when they're thinking about something likable. That's not going to work in this case. We're going to be thinking about something unlikable. But can we like our thinking? Can climate change be a problem we want? Have you ever had a problem you wanted? Or when somebody says, I'll solve it, you go, no, 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 I'd like to solve this. And the most difficult legitimate question, and these are all legitimate questions for which I didn't and don't still really have an answer, is how can rewriting Cassandra, be a well-being project? How can we feel really good doing it every day? Because if it wasn't going to be a well-being project, people were not going to stay. They weren't getting money for it. They weren't getting credit. A few people tried to do their doctorate dissertation on this 90 days, and I said, no. Some people wanted to take film. No, no, no. It was participation. How could this be a well-being project? And we tried a variety of ways to make it. The singing that Beth did, we started off singing. I fumbled around and tried to teach people tap dance at the very beginning. So you can see, we tried all sorts of things. Okay. I kept hearing a pattern in the language of people. And I want you to hear this pattern because it went over and again. I had a little box and would ask myself, did I hear this pattern? So this is a conversation in July between me and a woman named Anne. Me. Well, do you feel like you're doing something to limit climate change? Anne. Oh, no, nothing. Me. Anne, nothing at all? Anne. Well, it's not really true. I do have several cloth bags that I take to the grocery store when I remember. So that's something. And we did change over to LED light bulbs, and now I'm hearing in her voice a little pride that they did this. And then I said, well, hey, that's something. And then Anne said, well, I thought so too. And then her voice went down. But then my smart aleck daughter tells me, Mom, that's good, but it's not enough. One corporation will spew out so much carbon in one day that your little cloth bag is not going to help. It's just too small a scale, Mom, to matter. I said, well, do you feel like your neighbors are also using cloth bags so that there are maybe hundreds of people in your town using cloth bags, and that adds up? And then Anne said, yeah, and this was the low point. Frankly, I don't know what other people are doing. You know, I don't think anyone is doing anything. We need to see a huge change, and we need to see it yesterday. And I just don't know. I don't want to talk about this anymore. That little rise of what I'm doing, I'm proud of it. A woman who collects plastic, people who go and take out bottles, and then the whole scale argument that if you're doing it alone and you're only 10, 15, 20 people, it's not enough. I would hear that crash and burn over and again. It's not enough. So people would say to me, well, you're 20 people, you're meeting for 9 days. 20 people? Oh, yeah, Susan, that's really going to make a difference. So I would watch us beat up on each other. Danielle last week talked about contradictions, trying to find contradictions in what you're studying. Contradiction being two desires that cannot exist in the same universe or system. I think what we see now is a contradiction between the required urgency and the required scale. We cannot resolve it. It's got to be now, and it's got to be a lot. And those two don't seem to work well. Okay. All right. A little more theater, and then we will be done. I will be done. This is a little theater scene in a neurologist's office between the neurologist and a woman who's just found out that her mother has Alzheimer's. Neurologist, what's important, Mrs. Jones, is that your mother no longer lives alone. Mrs. Jones, well, my mom's really very independent. She won't like that. Besides, who would live with her? Neurologist, well, that's just the question. It's imperative that she's not living alone. The fire that happened 2 weeks ago was very dangerous. She has burns. We can't have that happening again, right? So who could live with your mom? Do you have family? Mrs. Jones, no, I'm an only child and we don't have any family around here. Neurologist, well, could you live with your mother? Mrs. Jones, No, no, I can't live with her. Could you afford to hire someone? Mrs. Jones, no. Neurologist, what about moving her to an assisted living facility where, Mrs. Jones, no, doctor, we don't have money for that. I don't know if I've told you, but my husband and I are leaving for the south of France next Monday for a 2-month vacation. I'm so thrilled. I have been planning this trip for the last 5 years, getting money together, reserving beds and breakfast up and down the coast. It's going to be just so, neurologist. Well, that sounds wonderful. I'm happy for you, but let's figure out how your mother can be safe while you're, Mrs. Jones. Yeah, we tried to have this trip 3 years ago, but at the last moment, my husband had severe chest pain, so we had to cancel. And I was so devastated. But now, nothing is going to stop me, doctor. It's going to stop us from going. Neurologist, well, I see how important this is, but your mother, Mrs. Jones. My mother? She's fine. She'll be fine. She can stay for 2 months by herself. Some friends will come over, I don't know. But I am not changing my plans because my mother's become forgetful. I am not changing my plans because my mother burnt her shoulder. I am not changing my life because Brazil's new government is burning down the Amazon. I will not change my life because 1 billion animals were killed in Australia. I am not changing my life because it was 63.5 degrees in Antarctica 2 weeks ago. I am not changing my life. I am not changing my life. No one has a right to question anyone else's priorities. I think that. Miranda, New Orleans, February 21st. Phone call. Hey, Sue, I've considered what you proposed about me getting involved. I can't do it. A few years ago, I hired a life coach, and we made a life plan, and I took a look at it last night, and I'm really doing well. Everything's happening when it should be happening. And 4 years from now, I'm going to get my doctorate, then I'm going to get a good job on reproductive health. I haven't given up on activism. Then I'm going to get pregnant, and then... Okay. So now I will assume you want to ask me some questions, but you're too polite. So I'll ask them for you. Susan, how did you all support yourself if you weren't working August through December? Are you guys trust fund babies? Sounds pretty privileged that you were able to have the luxury to focus on just one problem. Okay, I am not a trust fund baby. I work part-time from January through July, and that money is fine. I'm extremely stingy, and I'm the reason restaurants have that sign, please do not bring food inside. It's because of me, because I bring food inside. Okay. Question number 2. But Susan, don't you have anyone that needs you? Take care of your parents or children or... Again, safe answer. I purposely didn't have kids. I have had extensive time periods when I have taken care of people. My first partner had emphysema for the 26 years we were together. My mother had Alzheimer's for 12 years. Another question. Okay, Susan, convince me that if I stop everything I'm doing, that I should focus on climate change. Why climate change? Convince me. Answer. I don't convince. I want to be part of limiting the damage of catastrophic climate change and providing solutions. Okay. Question. Why do you propose we stop everything we're doing to focus on? Why do we have to stop everything? Okay. I have a demonstration, scientific. The words. Okay. You see this table? Can you see this? Yes. It's full of stuff. You tried to put in there climate change. Right? It would take up the space that the other things would let it have. Climate change is a latecomer to the table of importances. These other things are fine, but it leaves no room for you to focus on how big you want climate change to be in our lives. So from September 16th to December 7th, 20 of us removed everything, or tried to. Some people couldn't and had kids and jobs and tried. In order to see, by focusing on climate change, just how big would it take? Now we're in the aftermath, and things are coming back on our tables. But I will repeat, the size of the focus of climate change is determined by the other things around it. I understand climate change in the current world by the amount of space I give it. If I stick with things that I have inherited, there's no space, or distracted space. I think that's all I have to say. Okay, thank you very much. There are around 8 or 9 people in this room that were part of the September through December project, and I'm aware I did not talk about what happened when we started the project, because we have done this project. I crafted the invitation, but the people participating crafted the project, and that was how we meant it to be. So I'm wondering if you who were in the project would like to stand up for a moment, because we have about 10 minutes. I meant to make it shorter, sorry, but and people might want to ask you questions, because it stands that is a possibility that we will once again try 90 days, maybe something different. You may have some ideas for ways you want to respond to limiting the damage. So Beth, would you say who you are? Oh, we're supposed to sing. Okay. So let's stand up, the people that are involved in the project, and then we'll sing. Okay, Mark, who are you?
Stand up here.
Mark. Nan, Elizabeth,
And if
Steve.
you were in part-time, does that count?
Yeah. It counts. All right, some other people. All right, some shy people, all right. Okay. Cindy. Yes.
I am one of the people who talk about scale and how carrying a cloth bag all of your life will do nothing to impact the plastic ocean piece. But it depends on what scale are you talking about. And there's a different scale than the physical impact, and that's the emotional and psychological capacity we have to face those things. So carrying a cloth bag may not impact the plastic island, but it may help create a psychological and emotional climate in which you can face bigger questions. And singing together and connecting to each other and having a proximate zone on that level of scale is key, because as I'm sure all of you probably know, it's too hard to face. It's just too big, it's too hard, right? So we need to develop our psychological and emotional capacity, and the only way we can do that is together. Okay, another song. So this is a call and response song, and there's a trick at the end. It's not really tricky. I'm going to show you how it goes. There's going to be 3 things. I want you to know about the end of it, and then I'm going to ask you to stand up. It's like this. And on this land, I call my home, and through these plains, where I roam, I hear a voice, call. The confusing part is, I'm going to say, I hear a voice, and you're going to say, I hear a voice, and then I'm going to say, I hear it, but you don't repeat that. You just go to say call with me. We all say call at the same time, and then we say, I'm not a stranger no more. Once again, if you're confused, it's okay. I invite you to stand up if you want to stand up. And in this world, I call my home, and on this earth, where I roam, I hear a voice, I hear it call. I ain't a stranger no more. So you get that? We come together on call and then say, I ain't a stranger no more together. Okay, we do it again. People who like harmonies, who likes harmonies? Join the harmonies, do the harmony thing. Yes, sing both. And in this world I call my home, and on this earth where I roam, I hear a voice, I hear it call. I ain't a stranger no more, and on this land I call my home, and through these plains where I roam, I hear a voice, I hear it call. I ain't a stranger no more, and in this town I call my home, and through these streets where I roam, I hear a voice, I hear it call. I ain't a stranger no more. Again, big. I hear a voice, I hear it call. I ain't a stranger no more. I invite you to look at somebody and give them an eye five. An eye five. Give somebody a high five if you want, but the eye five. And in case it doesn't get mentioned, it's very key to know the next global climate strike is April 22nd. Please participate in the way that you are going to. Please tell other people about it. It's an international thing. There's a hand waving.
I have no idea what a national climate strike is.
Well, Lisa Faye. It is a strike is a time in which people stop their usual path of doing to draw attention to something else. Sometimes they're paying attention, sometimes they're giving attention, sometimes they're acting. In this town, there's a group of people, some of the people who just stood up, who are figuring out what will it be in this town. So you're invited to that. But even if what you do is look, there's an international movement of young people who, this Fridays for Future, who are saying, we'd like to die of old age. We'd like the option to die of old age. That's what they're saying. And that's what I'm saying. So this is a time to say, what the fuck, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my God, I'm gonna do that. So April 22nd is a time to do that big. And in the short term, please come up to one of us who you saw and say, what? I have to tell you something.
Stuart, did you want to make a few? Yes. Yeah, we will talk about that. Oh, no, please.
Another kind of thing that you can do, some sort of collective action is important. One possible kind of collective action is legislative. And there's a bill in the Illinois legislature now, the Clean Energy Jobs Act, which aims to decarbonize the electric sector in Illinois by 2030. And I don't know, it's basically a chunk of the Green New Deal addressing both using renewable and phasing out fossil fuels, and also addressing equity at the same time. So it's a big deal. I could say lots more about it, but one thing that you can do is there is a bus going to Springfield on March 4th. If you can take the day on March 4th, come and join this bus. Last year for Environmental Lobby Day, which is what this is, like 500 people in Green Church descended on the legislature. We made a huge impression, and a bill got passed that day addressing coal ash. It's not addressing climate change, but it's addressing a big local issue. It's exciting, at least it can be, and it can really make a difference in putting Illinois on a clean energy, no fossil fuel future. So if you're interested, you can sign up. There are flyers here. There are also flyers on the table out there. And if you'd like to talk about this Clean Energy Jobs Act thing that I'm pushing, I'm happy to talk about it. Thanks.
Also, there's a little pad. If you want to be connected to us, the Cassandra Remnants we would be happy to talk to you. I promise, though, we still have 5 minutes for questions. Could be addressed to other people. Do you have a comment or a question?
Yeah. Could you tell me about some of the other things you did during the project?
Okay. At a suggestion from Catherine from Bonn.
Can you walk in front of the microphone?
Oh, yeah. And also other people can answer this. We started a pop-up climate cafe that's been running now for, I think I count, 17 Saturdays. We did it first in the farmer's market, then we moved into the Christmas market by Jim's acupuncture place, and then we now are by the Idea store. So that's Saturday morning from 10 to 12, and that is based on a simple idea that if people are not talking about a problem, they can't solve it. The Idea Store. We're beginning to recognize this level of inquiry. The Idea Store is in Lincoln Square. If you go into the south entrance and you turn left, it's open noon Tuesday through Friday, and then it's open till like 7, and then it's open 8 a.m. on Saturday. It's also a place not only where you can get things that are just extremely useful to make things with, but you can also bring stuff that people can. So it does handle both of those things. And so in the Climate Change Cafe, this is not where we put out a leaflet. We considered a pop-up cafe because in the beginning, way back in September, we wanted to do things in Market Street, in Champaign, and we kept being told in 2 or 3 weeks they would get back to us. Well, it was too much waiting. I loathe the waiting factor. It's like, no, no. So Mark, my friend, said, let's just show up, and if they don't like us, we'll run away. You know, so it's called pop-up. I wish this really should be called runaway. And the same thing happened with Lincoln Square. We couldn't get them to answer us exactly, so we just got there, sang, accordion, all sorts of stuff, and people just hang around. It looks like it's a party, actually, but what it is people talking. And we always have something, and so our rule of thumb always was, if there's only one person who wants to do something, it's too few, but 2 is fine. If 2 people want to do something, it is an event. So the Climate Change Cafes, we have a sign saying Climate Change Cafe. We always give free cookies and free tea, so we give something nice. We have a carpet, a Persian carpet, where people can sit on that carpet so that they're in Lincoln Square sitting on a Persian carpet. It's meant to be incongruous. And then chairs and then leaflets. But we mostly talk with people and listen. So that's been something that we've really done. We've also worked really hard on trying to be part of the enormous amounts of people that are talking about stopping investing in banks like Chase so that they don't keep investing in fossil fuel. And that's been something for years that never was working, and this divestment campaign is now really reaching this kind of ripple effect where so many people are doing it because, as somebody said, Jim Baker, fossil fuel stocks are tobacco, meaning people don't want these stocks because they have no future. So that's been really something good we've done. Our group divided with 20 people into those people who wanted to organize, and so we aligned with strikes and things like that, which we'd never done before. I was really grateful for. And then there are those people who wanted to make things.
Wait,
So,
that's not a divide.
What?
Object.
what?
It wasn't a divide.
Oh, well,
I made and organized. I'm just saying.
okay. Oh, yeah, that's true. Beth did do that. Okay, yeah, I see what you meant. But there are those people that, and then, yes, and had we stayed maybe for 4 or 5 months, we probably would have started switching instead of making things. So by the making things, we did protest Chase at night, and we did it, some people dressed as spoons, and then some people taking styrofoam bricks, and so we threw bricks at Chase, but they were styrofoam. So that was a mixture of both organizing and creative. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a taste of what we've done. Yes. Okay.
One more place that you can connect is cuclimatecafe.com has updates on things. So Climate Cafe is actually happening 10 to 12. Any Saturday that the market's happening inside the mall. Talking to one of us in person, cuclimatecafe.com, or signing your name on this little paper.
Right. Yeah, and tomorrow the market is, Lincoln Square is closed for some internal thing, so we won't be there. But otherwise, we have been there and very happy to see people. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.